Hello folks, it's Mad Dog Merv, and here I am at Highland High School again, and today is game day. We all who used to go to Highland know what that means, and I'm not sure who they're playing tonight, but it's another home game. Taking a look at the artificial turf here in the back, it is really a beautiful field, unlike the one that we played on back in the day. So today we're actually going to do installment number 3 of the series of Highland High School in our Echoes from the Chalkboard series of investigating some of the schools of Salt Lake City. And in episode 3, we're going to look at some of the areas that, well, when they did some of the rebuilding in the late 70s that they added on to. We're going to go to some of those areas. We're going to go to the infamous boiler room. Ooh, that kind of sounds like a scary place, but how many people have ever been there? Let's take a look at that. We're going to go to the old ROTC area where the old rifle range used to be and see what's there nowadays. So stick with us for Echoes from the Chalkboard, Highland High School, part number 3.
So I found a bunch of pictures from one of the old Highland yearbooks when I went to school there, and you can see here's what the football field looked like back in those days. And this had to have been taken very early in the football season because the field's not too terribly torn up, but this is what they used to have to play on, and you saw in the opening how nice that artificial turf is. Here's a great picture that shows Highland's football field a little bit later in the season where they've used diesel fuel to burn the lines in, and just how absolutely horrible that field used to be for the kids to play on. So the field that they currently have, wow, it is really impressive and beautiful. A few years ago, my son worked for the grounds department, and we were tasked with making the field very beautiful for the opening game of the season. It was going to be nationally televised. The grounds foreman at the time came to me, and we were talking about a logo for the middle of the field. And so I drew and made made the drawings for this particular logo to put on the field. And my son, who was working for grounds at the time, painted that logo on the field. Here is a screenshot from that nationally televised game, and you can see that logo in the middle of the field. This is back, of course, when it was a turf field. One of the last years it was a turf field, and I'm pretty proud of that accomplishment. So now we are just going to turn to the east from where we were standing, and this is where the old cafeteria was, and we're going to focus on these doors that go down underneath the cafeteria. You all remember those, that ramp that goes down there, because, well, that's where the simulator was for driver's ed. So we are going to go through these doors and look at it now. And now there's this corridor that's built down there. This used to be the ROTC area many years ago. It has been for quite some time classrooms. The driver's education simulator has, as long as I know, been just at the bottom of that ramp, the very first door. Here you go. The simulators do change over the years, but it's still a simulator room. There's always great stories about what we used to do in that simulator room. Well, next to it, when I went there as a student, was a weight room. But now, well, it's been turned into a classroom. And next to that is another classroom, but you notice that the wall on the left-hand side, that is a permanent wall. So these two areas used to be the weight room, and then there was a screen that kind of went behind that over to the ROTC area. This is what used to be the ROTC rifle range way back in the day. And you see what it looks like now. And just a little bit farther north is the old cages where they used to have the ROTC equipment, their outfits, their rifles, and things like that. And of course, those are still there, but our custodians are now using that as kind of a storage area. And behind this was another room. You can see the chalkboard here, so I'm not sure what this was ever used for with ROTC, maybe some kind of a little classroom or something. But those of you who had ROTC and remember the rifle range will remember at the very back of the rifle range, this was here. And what this is the piece of metal that's on a 45-degree angle. You can see all of the little stipplings where the 22 caliber bullets had hit it and gone down into the dirt. And yes, that area is still there. It's used as a storage area now, but you can see the numbers on the wall. And here's the sand where those bullets used to land. I bet you there's still brass and whatnot down there. So further north, that used to just kind of be cut off, but in recent years they had built kind of this tunnel that connected the area under the gym to the area under the cafeteria. And this is a couple of different views that I have, looking back up now towards the old ROTC area, up the ramp there that many of us remember by the old dance room. So this particular area at the bottom of the stairs from the main gym, you would look out and you would see what used to be called the dirt room. This area is just south of the old dance studio, and you used to be able to look out and you could see the windows in the distance and whatnot. When we get to the other side of that area, which is now a corridor, you can see there used to be an old window there that's blocked off. Here are the doors and windows that you used to be able to see in that dirt room at the very end. If you walk up the stairs that are just at the end there, this area at one time was the outside back of the school. And in the early 1980s, they built this addition with the back gym and a bunch of locker rooms and things like that, and enclosed this area. But this and those pillars that you see in the distance were always there, but they were outside of the building itself. So you look at the picture at the very beginning, and you can kind of see those in that picture. So now we're going to go up the staircase to the main gym, and you see how this has changed over the years. The one thing I found very interesting is Dixie State College or University or whatever it is called this week, because it's politically correct. Well, it looks very similar. Was same design as the old Highland Gym, and this is what it looks like today. This is what it looked like back in 1981 with our state championship basketball team. My friend Larry Mummy was the manager of the team. You can see him on the very, very far left there. But I was actually very proud of this team, and some of these guys are still my friends, and that's what the gym looked like back in the 1980s. Here's the balcony that so many of us remember from things we used to throw down from there. You can see that the doors have changed now. They've been moved to a different area, and here's the red hallway and the doors that go out to the courtyard. So turning right to the south end of the red hallway used to be this ramp and the stairs that went right up to the cafeteria, and you can see the cafeteria doors there in the distance. And I remember coming out of gym right before lunch and hauling up there and waiting at those doors until the custodian would open the door so we could get in and get our lunch. Well, this is how that area looks now. The whole cafeteria area was converted into classrooms, and the cafeteria was moved to what used to be the art rooms. There was an addition made, and I think we've covered that in one of our previous episodes. This particular view of the cafeteria is very interesting because this is when I went there, and I think if I were to search well enough, because I know where I used to sit, you might even be able to find me in this picture here sometime in the early 1980s. This is how I remember the cafeteria. And in this particular picture here, you can see how the cafeteria used to look when it was very, very first built. Well, here's how that area looks today. It's a corridor, and there are 4 different classrooms down here, art and ceramic classrooms, with all of the natural light from what used to be in the cafeteria. They are very, very good classrooms to have down there, but kind of sad for me walking into what used to be the cafeteria, and this is the change that has been made now. So we're going to make a right turn, go down the little stairs, and here we are outside by the old cafeteria again. So here is the Highland that I went to in the early 80s. Here's what it looked like from the park back in those days. And here it is as it was built. Now we're going to focus on the kind of right-hand corner down in this area. Hey, look, there's those pillars I was talking about in that hallway. There's the smokestack as it originally was, and the larger building kind of at the bottom left is the boiler room area. So let's go exploring that. Here is the new building that has been built. You can see the addition. You can see the base of the smokestack on the left-hand side, and a little bit kind of in the middle there you can see the back part of the the main gym, what used to be the main gym. So all of this to the right has been added on, including this area, which is the back gym, as it's called, and the staircase that comes down from that back gym and goes to the outside. But it is something that is now just a fire exit only and is not used on a regular basis. So as I turn around and look to the north, there is the little building next to the boiler room, and you can see the roll-up door that used to be used to store equipment, and I believe this was kind of a little maintenance area for the building at the time. And if I turn around, wow, there I am right in front of the door that goes into the boiler room. So I'm going to go into the boiler room, and immediately here's what I see. The hot water boilers that are there now, back when the school was originally built, the boilers that were in there were absolutely huge. Originally, Highland High School was built with low pressure steam boilers, which is kind of interesting. So just to the right, there's a tunnel that goes underneath the building where the steam pipes go into the building, and we've explored some of these tunnels before, and really there's nothing too exciting about it. There's just steam pipes. So anyway, there is one of the entrances that goes underneath the building. Next up in the boiler room, I'm going to look up and you can see the old doors for the coal loading. This particular boiler did run on natural gas, but its backup source of fuel was coal, and there were times that it actually ran on coal. Here is kind of an overall shot going from the north to the south of the whole entire boiler room. You can get an idea of how large this particular space is. And here are, of course, the steam boilers, the hot water supply tank, and you can see the doors for the old coal bin up there on top. Here's an area of kind of interesting. I'm looking here at the back of the boiler room, and this is where some air compressors used to be. Back in the old days, the pneumatic systems that ran the heating system required compressors. And here's some old equipment that is just left in one corner of the boiler room. You can see this fire hose here. Well, back in the old days of the steam boilers, there were two what they called firemen, and these firemen were to keep an eye on the boilers at all times, make sure they were firing properly, and they would use those fire hoses to clean the floor in the boiler room and keep it spotless. Here's another piece of old equipment from the pneumatic system that's just sitting there on the wall. It's just kind of interesting to see it hanging there. Here is a gantry that was used to move heavy equipment, whether it was valves or whatever, from one place to another, usually unload it from off of a trailer there in the boiler room. This particular picture is of the east wall of the boiler room, and you can see the eye washing station, hand washing station, and this wooden cabinet that used to have all of the tools, equipment, and chemicals to test these steam boilers with. The stairs here on the right hand side go up into the main building, and you can see this big blast door, and I wondered what this was all about, and really it's just a sound insulating door, because if the boilers were firing, they were very noisy, and they would close this so it wouldn't disturb anybody using these rooms. And now this room is used as a wrestling room. It's been many different things over the years. Again, back to the boiler room, looking up, you see some of the many pipes and some of the other equipment that's just there hanging on the wall in the old boiler room. I remember the first time I worked at Highland, there was a flood. There was a problem with one of the boilers, and this boiler room had actually flooded about 4 or 5 inches up the entire boiler room. And of course the water was quite hot, and we had to go in and shut things down. That was kind of a pain. You look at this, and it is kind of a terrifying looking place. There used to be a coal bin up here, and the coal bin has been torn out. The conveyor belt and all that used to feed the old boilers when they put the new boilers in was torn out as well. But this is where the smokestack, the vent goes into the smokestack, and the smokestack has been cut down to very short over the years. Here is the school that I went to, and you see how tall the smokestack used to be and how beautiful Highland used to be back in the 1980s. This is the school that I remember and that I loved. And here it is today. It still looks very nice. Some of the trees have grown up quite tall. It just isn't quite the same as what I went to. It underwent a major overhaul back in the late 1990s, where it was retrofit for earthquake, so earthquake wouldn't drop it. Remember the old awning that used to be over the whole front sidewalk of the building? Here's the main entrance, what is now the main entrance, but this is over by the library, and how it used to look with that metal awning that just sat over the walkway. I remember when I first worked at Highland, I had to go out there and take a pressure washer and scrape all the gum off. And here's how this looks today. The awning is now gone, and you just have these doors that go in there by the library, or by the old library, because that now has been moved as well. So to me, it's not nearly as aesthetically pleasing, but I guess it's functional and it works, and all that other kind of stuff. I'm just not a fan of the change. Anyway, looking at the main entrance by the auditorium, back in the day, of course, there's the awning. There is those beautiful doors that you would go in, and to the right, of course, was the ram statue. That's where the ram was. That's where it always was, and it was right by a window, so you could see it. But this is the Highland that I remember when I went to school there. Well, since the retrofit, that was all ripped out, and you can see it was bricked up, and the entranceway is now where the windows used to be, where the ram used to sit. So that's a change that has been made. Well, this has been kind of a fun look at some of those areas and kind of a nostalgic look back. Remember doing this, guys? Remember putting the old H up on the E that used to be on the old East High School? Yeah, I remember those days.
Well, there you go, part 3 of our nostalgic look at Highland High School, and some of the areas that maybe you've never seen before. It was a lot of fun putting this video together, I got to tell you, and in some ways a little heart-rending because, well, I have quite a history of Highland High School in my family and myself, and it's a great trip down memory lane, and some of it is, well, things have changed so much. But hopefully you got to see some new areas that you hadn't seen before, and hopefully this brings back some great memories for you, because it really does for me. When I was up there putting this video together, I actually ran into Dean Collette. Didn't put him on camera. I mean, the guy's like 90 years old, but he remembers everybody. He knows everybody that ever went to Highland, Dean looks fabulous. He's so happy and upbeat, and what a fabulous guy. They need to name a school or a district or a flippin' university after him someday, I gotta tell you. But anyway, thanks for watching, and stay tuned, because at some point I think we're going to do a 4th installment, because there's some areas that we still haven't looked at that have really changed over the years. So we'll look at that again one of these days. Thanks for joining us.